Recently, I picked up a top-down shooter roguelike called Dust and Neon that I had my eye on for quite a while. It was released February 13th, 2023, and it's a game you can play anywhere, on console, PC, or even mobile if you have a Netflix account. But after playing it, I'll say I can't picture playing it anywhere else other than PC, and I'll explain why later down the line. It was developed by David Marcotte, and they don't have any other games published on Steam, so let's fully dive into everything Dust and Neon has to offer, and see if this game is worth trying to get 100% achievements in, because for me, it was a game I wanted to get everything done in. The core gameplay for Dust and Neon is a top-down shooter where you play through 5 different areas, selecting one mission at a time, and eventually each area will spawn a boss for you to fight. The missions to choose from are all rather simple and never really change, nor does the environment for these missions. Every area feels a little bland and it tends to get repetitive fast. Every mission will give you a reward and XP, but there's only a few different missions to choose from, and the objectives are all different. But the gameplay of the mission is always just killing robots, looting houses and guns, and teleporting back after the main objective is done. The different missions include robbing a train, killing marked robots, breaking into the robot's base, defusing a bomb in a certain amount of time, or destroying some toxic barrels. In my playthrough, I completely avoided defusing any bombs because it gave you such a short amount of time to find the bomb and actually defuse it. Almost every mission, minus the train robbing missions, you're locked out of where you need to go until you kill every robot in the area, and that's fine really. But for the bombs, the robots just kept spawning, and it felt like you had no time whatsoever to actually complete the objective, which made me fail it every time. And failing a mission, you miss out on some cores and money, and you also lose your guns. Not the biggest deal in the world. The main missions as a whole weren't really rewarding in my eyes. The boss missions that you do eventually spawn is where you got most of your money, and where there was actually some challenge. But all of the bosses, minus the 4th boss, were relatively easy. Just look at this 4th boss. The setup isn't bad where you need to dodge traps and shoot the boss when you can, but the movement feels less than satisfying, and if the not so great hitboxes and the lack of healing, it was more frustrating than any other boss you face. And I almost forgot to say this, but bosses spawn based on what level you are in the game, and we'll also get into what the levels are pretty soon. So as a whole, the missions are repetitive, the bosses are easy, but is the gunplay any good? This is a top-down shooter, so you have your typical perks with dodging and sprinting, but you don't have unlimited ammo. But you can find a lot of crates that give you new guns and ammo, so you never really feel in danger unless your guns stink, because let's be honest, some guns do stink. You are able to hold 3 guns at once with a shotgun, a pistol, and a sniper, but towards the end game, I felt every pistol I picked up was really underwhelming compared to the shotguns and the snipers. And what's an even more underwhelming part of the game that gets really old really fast is the reloading, which is supposed to act more as the gimmick of the game. Every time you reload, you need to tap the R button, or whatever your reload button is, for every bullet you want to load into the gun. Not that bad, right? No, I don't think so. It's an okay gimmick that I've seen done in a few other games. The annoying part of it is the gun popping up on the right side of the screen and not really leaving until the gun is fully loaded or you back out of the reload. But 5 hours in, you just kind of ignore it, or it distracts you and blocks your vision on what you're trying to look at. It's an okay gimmick that lost its charm fast, but minus that, the gunplay feels okay as a whole. The aiming is nice with the mouse, and with how the game is set up, I feel it would be really hard to play on a controller or a phone for that matter, but that's just personal preference. But where the game kind of shines in my opinion is the meta progression and all the other things that you can do outside of a run. It's not like a crazy amount, but it's more than what I was expecting in this little game. The first and most important thing to talk about is the meta progression. After missions, you may level up, and every time you do level up, you gain 2 skill points, and you can upgrade your character's health, speed, damage taken from behind cover, HP restored on kills, HP found in chest, and you can upgrade all of your guns separately. I genuinely liked the meta progression up until level 30. If you want to fully beat this game, you'll need to be at least level 35 for the final boss to spawn, and I'd predict it takes about 7 to 10 hours to get there. But after level 30, the game gives you 1 skill point instead of 2, so your upgrades slow down significantly. I'll admit, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's just more so an interesting choice by the devs. And that's the meta progression, but there's still more to do outside of a run. but it's not as big as your character upgrades. Inside every run, you get cores for killing enemies, and those cores are used to unlock everything. You unlock the ability to buy back your guns, the ability to buy new guns before a run, and you can also get perks that last a singular mission, or maybe two if you're lucky. And those perks are Frank's Mind Blowers, which gives you a positive perk for one entire mission, and then we have Dr. Joe's Shake Oil, which is really similar to Frank's, where you get a perk for a mission, but it could have some negative side effects. Overall, Outside of a Run is not too bad. The extra enhancements with Dr. Joe and Frank's shops, being able to buy back your weapons if you do die, being able to buy new weapons for every single run, and then the meta progression went a little more in depth than what I was expecting. Even if it gets cut in half in the late game stages, I don't really think that brings Outside of a Run down. The last thing we can really discuss is how easy this game is to get all the achievements in, or how hard it is. I got all the achievements in about 13 hours of game time, and I would predict you will get every achievement except for 2 by just casually playing through the game. The 2 achievements that might take some extra time and might make the game a little more tedious is looting 200 weapons and rebeating every boss 2 times. The looting of 200 weapons isn't hard, and it can easily be done before beating the game depending on how many missions you do. The way I did this was just opening every single chest in every single mission and looting every single weapon. Super simple, and you'll probably get this much faster than beating all the bosses 3 times. All of the bosses are relatively simple, and I think you could beat them all on the first time, every time, minus the 4th boss, the one I complained about earlier. That boss fight might be one of the worst design fights of all time. Every boss gets slightly harder when you do refight them, but the 4th one just gets annoying with how many traps are set up and how annoying and janky the controls can feel while trying to dodge a million lasers. You get a couple health packs in every boss fight, and if you upgraded getting health back on kills, it will be a little bit easier because every boss has a few phases that you need to go through, and between the phases you do fight random enemies. But if you do end up trying to 100% this game, I highly suggest waiting until Dr. Joe's Shake Oils give you a free revive for this 4th boss on the 2nd and 3rd fight, as you'll take a lot of damage from those traps. If you can somehow beat it without dying, you're a better gamer than me. Overall, the achievements are easy, minus one of them being annoying. Dust in Neon was a little more disappointing than what I was hoping for, but it still had some shining moments to justify the purchase. I bought the game when it was half off, and that's what I would suggest you do as well. It's typically 26 Canadian dollars when it's full price, and I feel most people will say that's too much for what this game offers. Half off or even more is something I'd say, yeah, give it a shot. The core gameplay with the missions can feel repetitive, and it does feel a little buggy here and there with some doors and hitboxes, but the meta progression is nice, the guns feel pretty good, and it was satisfying getting all the achievements and finally killing that 4th boss a 3rd time. Dust in Neon is still a pretty solid game overall that I would definitely recommend on sale, especially if you're a fan of top-down shooters. That's really all I have to say, so thanks for watching. An extra special shout out to the people that support me on Patreon still. That extra support really means the world, and just thank you for that. And yeah, I'll see you next time.